Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ironis Insights. I have a great guest here today, Jason Bond, managing partner at the Buhl Microcap Fund. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jason.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah, where are you calling from today?
I'm in Seattle.
Beautiful. Is it raining?
That's funny that you asked that. The next 6 days are supposed to be all rain. So true to form, Seattle has rain. Yeah.
In New York, right now it's actually beautiful, but we've not really felt like spring or summer yet, so we're trying to figure it out. But today is actually kind of nice. Um,
Nice.
Thanks for hopping on, man. I mean, very interesting space you're in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background before we dive into your microcap fund?
Sure. I studied philosophy as an undergrad, so I knew nothing at all about business or investing.
Yeah.
Um, I got a job doing business consulting, so that was when I first started learning about business. And
Uh-huh.
I had a friend who was doing some investing, and he pointed me to Warren Buffett. I read a book called Buffett, The Making of an American Capitalist by Roger Lowenstein.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I've read it.
just a great book about Buffett's story, and that's when I got into it. At the same time, I went back to school and I studied economics. I ended up getting a master's in economics. Then I worked for a guy in White Plains, New York, actually for about a year. Then I came back to Seattle. My dad and my brother do financial planning, so I worked with them a little bit. But I was always drawn to the value investing approach to things. So looking for these stocks with a low PE ratio. I started using Joel Greenblatt's magic formula. I don't know if you heard of the book, The Little Book That Beats the Market, but
Hmm.
I got very into quantitative value investing. And then after I had done that for maybe 5 years, I got really interested in microcap stocks just because microcap stocks are stocks that nobody is really looking at. So there's very low competition in that area. Um,
Why do you think that is?
Um, Mainly it's because most large money managers simply have too many assets under management. And so a lot of microcap businesses are maybe 50 million or 100 million or 200 million. And if an asset manager has a billion, they can't buy enough of the stock for it to make a difference for their results. And so that's why there's no one really looking at these companies except for individual investors. And so if you're willing to do your homework, you can get a big advantage in that area.
Interesting. So, how did you first land on microcap value investing as your niche? You found it to be an opportunity that was unexplored, or is there anything else?
Um, I had been into the quantitative value investing, like I mentioned, just using Joel Greenblatt's magic formula.
Yeah.
And then I just noticed that many of the cheapest companies were companies that had low market cap. So I noticed that the microcaps were the most underpriced. And I started digging into it. I looked at the history of microcap value specifically. And if you look at all the sizes of microcap, small cap, mid cap, and large cap, and if you look at value and growth, microcap value, that segment has outperformed all the other segments historically. And so once I realized that, I went all in into microcaps.
Interesting. All right. So, when you're building the fund, when you first launched the fund, what was actually harder than you expected?
That's a great question. Um, Honestly, fundraising, so getting clients has been the hardest part
Yeah.
of investing. It's something that if you're a fund manager, a new fund manager, you probably don't know much about how to raise funds, but it's really a full-time job. So that's been the hardest part so far.
Got it. And how have you overcome that, or and what have you done to because I mean you're clearly you're clearly doing well, so I'm just curious what you've done to kind of make that work.
Um, I just got a bunch of books on sales,
Oh yeah.
like Grant Cardone's Sell or Be Sold, uh, and a bunch of other books on sales like that. And basically, you just have to treat it as a full-time job, and
Hmm.
develop your spreadsheet of contacts and make sure to follow up. So that's how I've approached it so far.
How to win friends and influence people is another great one.
That's actually the best one of all. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. Okay, awesome. All right. Well, so when you're looking for these investors, what's the biggest misconception these investors may have about what you do?
Another good question, Alex. I think that many investors are not aware of microcap stocks, and they tend to think that microcap stocks are much riskier than most other stocks.
Mm,
But there's an important difference between risk and volatility. It's true that microcap stocks are typically more volatile than the larger stocks, but that doesn't mean that they're risky. If you're buying the stock and it has a low PE and low debt and is growing earnings, then that's a pretty low risk proposition, even though the stock itself can be volatile. So it's actually the volatility of microcap stock creates wonderful opportunities. And what's interesting is that if you look at most of the great investors like Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch, Charlie Munger, Joel Greenblatt, they all started their careers investing in microcap stocks, and that's when they got the highest returns of their career too.
yeah,
So
it's
it's
interesting.
so it's an area where you can get the highest returns, and the risk is actually pretty low if you know what you're doing.
That's so interesting. And I bet a lot of them are surprised when you tell them that.
Yeah, most people just don't know about microcap stocks. Yep.
Yeah. So how does that education work? You just have a conversation with them? I mean, is this one or two conversations? How is it received? I'm just curious how that conversation goes. Yeah.
Um, in sales, in for a lot of products, it often takes 5 to 7 touches. And that's definitely true for raising money for a fund like I've done.
Hmm.
It The people who have come in, I just had a large client come in a couple of months ago, and I had talked to him probably 9 times over the course of a year.
Hmm.
And so it's really just building the relationship, educating the potential client about what you do, and then finally waiting for them to come around. So it's just a long process.
And how are you going about educating? Is this multiple conversations? Do you have deliverables? I mean, how does it how are you doing it right now? I'm just curious.
Um, Sure. The most important thing is, I think, for
Hmm.
the type of investors I want, because I want business-minded investors who understand that I'm investing in these microcap stocks, but I'm really investing in microcap businesses. So
Mm.
that's kind of the Warren Buffett mindset. Um, so the most important part of me getting clients is actually my letters to current partners. So that the gentleman I mentioned who just came in recently, he had read all of my letters to partners over the last, 5 years or so. So that's the most important part of how I get clients is just to talk about here's how I'm thinking about investing. Here's our investment process because I have a quantitative process. Here's how the process works. Here's a bunch of examples of stocks that fit the process. So that would be the biggest piece, I think, the education in terms of bringing people on.
Right, right. That's awesome. I mean, so most fund managers focus on performance. How do you think about growing the business side of the fund?
Are you asking about how do I think about performance?
Yeah.
Um, we've been fortunate so far. We haven't beat the market every year, which is typical of a quantitative value investing approach. It doesn't beat the market every year, but over 3 to 4 years or longer, it tends to beat the market. We've been ahead of the market as of February of this year. Uh, we've been generating about 20% net of fees since inception, which is June 9th, 2020. Um, but again, it's been very, very volatile. We've had some down years and some big up years.
Hmm.
2022, we were up 30%, even though the market was down 20%. But then the next year, we were down,
Yep.
um, even though the market was up. And then last year, we were up 43% or 44% net of fees. But then this year, some of the same stocks we had that were up last year are down. So we're actually down, even though the market's up. But overall, we've been fortunate to be ahead of the S&P although that advantage is small as we speak today, just because the fund's been volatile.
Hmm. Got it. So you're focusing, I mean, you obviously have to focus on the performance a lot, right? But how do you have time to like focus on growing the business as well?
Um, that's a great question because performance is the single most important thing. I mean, that's
Hmm.
why I'm doing what I'm doing, and without that, I can't really have a fund. I mean, we have to show
Yep.
strong returns in order to have a fund. So that's always priority number one.
Hmm.
Um, but as I mentioned earlier, finding clients is a full-time job.
Exactly, right?
And
So it's a catch 22.
yeah, so yeah, exactly. So I just been kind of burning the candle at both ends. I mean, I've
Uh,
been working 100 hours a week, 90 to 100 hours a week for the last few years. There's always more to do, basically.
yeah, it never stops, and I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. And I know your time is valuable. Um, well, I got you. All right, so if you wanted to double the fund in like the next couple years, what would you have to change operationally? Because you can't burn at both ends like this forever, right? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's true. It's just a matter of sticking with it. I mean, there's no real secret to it's
Hmm.
just nose to the grindstone. Just keep talking to people. I've got 3 to 4 people right now who are pretty close to investing. Some of those people could take 6 months to invest though. So um, there's no secret. It's just a hard slog basically.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, you said you've been overall doing positive and that track record, how do you get that story in front of these new investors? Like if you're doing everything at once, how do you do it?
That's a great question. I've tried lots of different approaches. I did
Yeah.
cold calls for like a year, which was interesting. Not fun to do, but I learned a lot from the experience.
Hmm.
And it didn't work all that well. Recently, I've been marketing on LinkedIn, and I think that's what I'm going to stick with because the last 2 clients I got who just came in recently, I met them through LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I think that if somebody has a really good sales and marketing approach, LinkedIn can be very fruitful because there are, way over 100 or 800 million, excuse me, LinkedIn users
Hmm.
from all over the world. So you can find a bunch of potential clients on LinkedIn if you know what you're looking for. That's been a process in itself, just kind of honing how I approach LinkedIn, having certain posts on LinkedIn that work to educate potential clients, and then hopefully getting into a conversation and having a couple of Zoom meetings. So it's back to that what I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, it's just that 5 to 7 touches before they finally invest.
Right. Yeah, definitely takes a lot of manual labor, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so this brings me actually to my next question. Like, what tends to pull you away from researching your investments that you'd rather not be spending time on, like mostly?
Um, it's a good question.
I mean, you're wearing many hats, right? So I mean, you're probably just thinking like, which one is it actually the most? Because I know, and you're working 100 hours a week. I'm sure you're just like, everything.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Alex, it feels like I'm always behind on
Yeah,
everything. I feel
yeah,
like I'm behind on the research that I want to do.
yeah.
I feel like I could be doing more marketing.
Hmm.
Um, so it seems like there's never enough time, but everyone gets 24 hours a day. So I think it's just a question of getting more effective at what I'm already doing. So in the course of the last year, marketing on LinkedIn, I've gotten a lot better at how to create LinkedIn posts that hopefully will catch people's attention and also educate. So it's just been an ongoing process.
Yeah, totally. I definitely get that. So, I mean, we're going through a lot of changes right now, right? We have AI the past 4 years, really, that's been kind of injected into the market. How do you think technology and these different AI tools are, changing asset management over the next couple of years?
That's a great question. AI is getting remarkably powerful, remarkably fast, remarkably smart. I think AI is going to change almost everything, certainly including asset management. Um, I I am in a number of different clubs of investors, including the Microcap Club, where there's a lot of really talented microcap investors. And I have found that AI is often, if you prompt it the right way, at least as good as some of the best analysts in these clubs. So I think AI is going to take over a lot of the research process, and ultimately, I think it's going to take over a lot of the investing as well. So I
Do you think it's
think
actually going to take over the investing too?
I do. I think a lot of top hedge funds have already been using something similar to AI for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Ray Dalio's Bridgewater Associates has used a type of AI process for their investing.
Hmm.
And then Jim Simmons at Renaissance Technologies, and they generated 60 to 70% a year returns. They were using an early version of AI to do that. So I think
Hmm.
AI is going to be the future of investing.
Yeah, I mean this machine learning and workflows, these have all been around before this little black box called ChatGPT came out 4 years ago. So it's not necessarily brand new, but it has gotten a lot smarter, a lot quicker. And is what's changed. And now it's publicly available. Yeah, it's certainly interesting to see how it's affecting other industries. But you mentioned something really important, which is if you give the right prompt, the input right now is just as good as the output. I mean, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out, and I think the early adopters of these tools are the ones that are going to come out ahead because everyone gets to start right next to each other if you start now, and that will give you um, a jump start on the competition, I think.
For sure. I have found that as I mentioned, the research I get from AI is at least as good as some of the best analysts that I've seen. So it's
Mhm.
already, with the right prompt, it's already challenging the best analysts in investing. So it's the future for sure.
Let's go, man. That's it's exciting, right? And especially for someone like you that has limited time, and that's certainly got to be a valuable resource for you.
It's incredibly valuable. Yeah, yeah. Um, that's why I named my fund the Buhl Microcap Fund.
Hmm.
I launched it. Well, I launched a predecessor fund in 2014, but the actual fund I launched in 2020 is
Hmm.
named after George Boole, who is an English logician, and Boolean algebra is the foundation for modern computing.
Hmm.
So I had the idea back then that eventually AI would be running my fund.
So cool, man. I love that. It's so awesome. And now look where we are.
AI is not yet running my fund though, but
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
it's getting, but Alex, it's getting closer and closer every month
Exactly.
because I'm turning more and more to ChatGPT for research. It's amazing.
Yeah, the tools that we have at our exposal disposal is really, really something else right now. And comparing them as well. Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. I mean, you have so many different options, and yeah, I found that some are better than others at certain things, and I'll leave that to anyone else to interpret and do their own research. But certainly, certainly, definitely changing the game. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And you made a great point that Claude is maybe better at deep research, and
Yes,
so there's different tools in AI that are good at different things. Yeah.
absolutely. Um, Well, listen, I really appreciate your time today. I want to let you get back to work. Where can the audience find you and your company?
You can find me on LinkedIn, and then I also have a website, which is just boolefund.com, boolefund.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day. All right.
Thank you very much, Alex. Great talking to you.
Thanks, man.